Hey guys, in this video we're going to take this Chevy truck from totally muddy to clean. This is actually a truck that just went mudding the other day, and this is just going to be an average detail because I'm going to see this truck again. So I want to show you guys from start to finish not only the awesome mud flying everywhere, but also how I take care of an average detail on a really muddy truck like this. Now, as you guys are going to look at the before, I also added in a little screen share of how I'm determining the price with MobileTech RX of this detail. I put in Jeremy as a new customer. I'm putting in his vehicle info, Chevy truck, color, all of that stuff. Could even scan the VIN number. I'm going to go ahead and put it as Jeremy, so I'm connecting the customer to the vehicle. Click the detail button, select the package. I'm going to do a truck exterior basic, no conditional factors. Put some excessive mud on there as an added service, and I come to my $270 total. I'm going to approve it, send it to Jeremy for him to sign so he can agree on the terms and the price. Then I get my work order ready. Now, for those of you looking to check out MobileTech RX, I'm going to put a link in the YouTube description box below where you can click and it'll take you to the website where you can sign up and do all of that stuff. So check that out below after the video if you like what you see. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of context, this is just an averagely dirty, muddy truck. This is kind of common in Middle Tennessee in the wintertime because of all the rain. So yes, it's kind of average dirt for wintertime, but still a ton of mud. And this is just going to be a basic wash and exterior protection. So here we go. I always start here because I'm going to be flinging mud everywhere, and so this is again what I say in a lot of my videos. I look at this kind of detailing as a funnel. You start more general and you get more detailed. That's kind of how I conceptualize all of the detailing process no matter what situation I'm in. So because mud's going to be flying everywhere, I want to make sure I start with this area. Very, very simply and straightforwardly, I'm going to hose it all off. I'm going to spray it all off with my pressure washer, get as much of that gunk off as I can with only the pressure and the water. Take a degreaser, let it sit on the tire and the wheel wells to break some stuff down. Be pretty strategic with my pressure washer, spraying those areas very intentionally so that I can peel off any of that dirt that gets left. By the way, these are fabric wheel wells. They're much easier to deal with when you have a good pressure washer. A lot of guys ask what pressure washer I'm using and what PSI it is. This is a 2000 PSI electric pressure washer from Sunjo. This is not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I will hook up a link to the pressure washer below if you guys want to see that, because that's a very, very common question. So after I do that, I'm going to take a Jax Wax wheel cleaner, spray it on the wheel, the inner barrel of the wheel. I will say in this particular video, I don't show it very clearly on camera, but the inner barrel of this wheel is very corroded with brake dust. So what I mean is the brake dust has sat there for so long that it started to corrode into the metal. Brake dust is corrosive, so it's one of those problems where I like to say in the detailing world, prevention is always better than the cure. Reason being, this is a perfect example. Once it sits there for too long and starts to eat into the metal, I'm actually using wheel brightener here, but I ended up pulling out the Jax Wax wheel cleaner, so that's what that purple chemical was. But I ended up not kind of doubling down with the Jax Wax wheel cleaner. So anyway, not to confuse you, but again, reason being, when it sits on the metal too long, it will start to eat through the clear coat that the manufacturer puts on the wheel and eventually eat into the metal, and that is when you're going to get a sort of, I call it like a Dalmatian effect. When you clean it, you can clean it to a level, but it's never going to be perfect, and so sometimes it actually makes more sense to leave the brake dust on the inner barrel of the wheel and only address the face of the wheel, because cleaning it creates that sort of splotchy pattern where some of it's clean and some of it is damaged and corroded, and it looks even worse than it did before when there was just a uniform dark coating of that brake dust. And while it is dirt, it actually looks better when 100% of it is on there rather than 50% of it. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, very simply, I'm going to take my detail brushes, go around the wheel, do the same thing with my Speedmaster brush and address the inner barrel of the wheel as well as I can. In between going from tire to tire, I am going to take any of that obvious mud off of those these rocker panels, the bottom rocker panels, as well as this part of the car where you step up on to get into the car. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. And that's kind of all I need to do with this area. It's not going to take a ton of other scrubbing or anything like that. I really can just spray the degreaser on there, let it sit, take a pressure washer to it, and my job can be done pretty quickly. So I want to let it dwell for just a second on certain areas, and other areas I'll just go ahead and blast it off. So we're going to go ahead and do that to the rest of the 3 tires as well as the other side of the rocker panels, and this is what that looks like. Moving on to the front of the car, this is always where I go after the tires. Again, your sequence, your system in detailing is everything. I always try to tell guys, the better your system becomes, the more money you make, and eventually the better job you end up doing. A lot of times what holds guys back is really just kind of wondering what to do next and having to take the time to decide rather than just knowing. So what I'm doing next to this truck is taking off all the bugs and then all of kind of the average dirt. There was a fair amount on the front. The camera kind of flatters lighter color paints like this silver, so you couldn't see it quite as well as I could in person, but there was a fair amount of surface dirt and grime on the front as well as bugs. And what ends up happening is when I use this degreaser and agitate it with the soft bristles from this detailing brush, even if I don't take off every single bit of every single bug, in other words, maybe I take 80% off and there's still that 20% later, when I take a clay bar quickly to it and I clay bar the rest of the car, that clay is going to really easily pull off the rest of those bugs, and it's not something I'm going to have to worry about too much. So don't get too in your head if you're a perfectionist, as I am. It's something that you can move on from in the moment, and it'll still be corrected later on. But the detailing brushes are also pretty vital. Oh, check it out, a dog. The detailing brushes are also pretty vital when it comes to getting in these little grooves of the front grille area. Most of the time, this is going to be like either a black trim or a chrome sort of clear-coated plastic, as it is here, and it's pretty simple to address when you have those detailing brushes. However, it is important to be able to kind of reach those areas because you're just not going to be able to do that otherwise, and I'd say it's pretty dangerous to stick a pressure washer too close in there. If there's any chipping or anything that's happened in there, that pressure washer is going to yank the rest of that paint off. So I would definitely advise against doing that. So I'm just going to finish the bugs here in the front before I move on to the pre-rinse and pre-foaming stage. Now I'm moving to the pre-rinsing stage. I'm using a Jack's Wax foam Canon soap, not for any other reason, but because I have it on hand and I've been using it in a lot of videos because it's just working really well. And before the last month, I've never used it and I really, really like it. So I'm going to fill that Trinova foam Canon up all the way, put about 3 to 4 ounces of soap in there, go ahead and wash some of the surface dirt off of the car with just my pressure washer and start foaming it up. And you're going to get to see kind of how thick and how well it foams up here in a second after I finish this whole side of the truck. But this is pretty straightforward. The pre-foam stage, pre-wash stage, let it sit for just a second, rinse it off before moving to an agitation wash. For the agitation wash, I'm going to use AM Detail's Bubbles soap, and I'm going to blast it with my pressure washer to get those suds kind of coming up. And I've got another 5-gallon bucket next to the 3-gallon or 3.5-gallon that I'm using right there with a grit guard, so I can wash that off in between my washing stages here. I will say I'm going to hook up below a different wash mitt than I'm using right here. This is a big synthetic wool mitt, and it was just too big. It's really difficult to manage, and it's kind of frustrating when you're trying to wash a car and be pretty quick with it. So I'm going to hook up a different wash mitt that I like a lot better. It's a lot easier to manage. But a lot of guys in a situation like this are like, Luke, why don't you use a ladder? I have a step ladder in the garage behind me, and it's just one of those things where it's like I could pull the ladder out and yeah, like it would be fine, and maybe on video that looks more professional, but standing on the tire, number one, is not going to damage anything. It's not going to hurt the tire. I'm not leaning on the paint. I'm not scratching the paint with like a zipper on my shorts. I'm just standing on the tire because it's just so much quicker to do it that way. And so at the end of the day, when you're detailing, sometimes it really is just about efficiency, especially when you're not sacrificing quality, you're not causing damage, none of those things. So sometimes people will give you a hard time when you're not using a ladder, but really it's just efficiency at that point. So I'm going to go around the whole car top to bottom with an agitation wash here and rinse it off, and we'll move on to the next stage. Also, I will say sometimes it's hard to pick up in the video, but anytime you move from panel to panel, I always just go ahead and flip the mitt over so that I'm not using the same side of the mitt that I use on a lower rocker panel on a maybe a higher area of the car on the next panel. Yeah, it's somewhere. Maybe the safe. Okay, good. Love you. Okay, bye. Now, after everything is washed, I'm going to take my Optimum No Rinse solution, about a capful of Optimum No Rinse for 32 ounces of distilled water. And I'm going to take a fine clay bar and just start clay barring the car pretty quickly. This truck doesn't have a ton of contaminants on it, so I'm going to move pretty quickly throughout the whole thing and kind of skip around just because it's not really that exciting to watch. So just going to clay bar the vehicle before we move on to the rest of it. Go ahead and dry it with a twisted loop drying towel as I go. I'm going to take my leaf blower afterwards to dry the tires and such before I address those, and then we'll move on to the finishing stages. So this is actually a pretty important point as I'm addressing the tires. I'm using Stoner More Shine Tire Shine. It's a silicone-based aerosol can dressing. I've used it for years now, and it's just kind of like an old faithful. I know exactly what I'm going to get when I use it. Reason I'm using it here, number one, is because it's easy. I know what I'm getting. And number two, I'm going to do it before applying the final detail spray, final sort of protection, because that aerosol can blows that dressing onto the tire, and the wind can pick it up and kind of spray it onto the car, and you get a sort of like freckled appearance on the car and windows that can be very frustrating if you wait till the last second to do the tires because you just cleaned and sealed the paint. So I actually do the tires before I seal in the paint. I'm using another product from AM Details here because it's on my shelf, not really for any other reason, and I just wanted to experiment with it a little bit. And it is a detailer that comes with some protection as well. Comes in a yellow bottle, smells really, really good, and has a very, very nice shine to it, particularly on these lighter colored cars or lighter colored trucks in this situation. So very easy to apply, very easy to take off, and so you're going to get to see what it looks like in just a second. But as you can see, just going to move across the whole car. Going to do it on the windows, paint, and any other pieces I can see before I address the trim. I'll be addressing the trim with Renegade vinyl, rubber, and plastic. It's my favorite product right now as far as trim and tires are concerned. It's a water-based dressing, and it just goes on so seamlessly and so uniformly. So in this case, I'm applying it with my microfiber, but in many cases, I can spray it and walk away. So here we go. Alright guys, that's it. If you're interested in seeing any of the products or the tools used in this video, check out the Amazon links in the description box below. It'll be super organized from start to finish what I used in case you're interested in seeing that stuff. If you're new to the Wilson Auto Detailing community and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos like this that I put out. Thank you guys so much for being involved, and as always from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.